Well. Brian Broaddus, I believe, has been listening to the content creators. I think he's been listening to the fans. I think he's been listening to people talk about, in particular, Mazi Smith. Because a lot of people, to me, I just think people are kind of double talking on this. People are saying on the one hand that Mazi Smith is going to take a step. My question is, how big is the step going to be? Some people are saying he's going to take a huge step, but they still say we need a veteran presence at the one tech position because Jay Toya is not going to be enough. They're saying that the rookie shouldn't be thrown in that type of position, putting that pressure on a rookie defensive tackle. And people are saying if we do get a defensive tackle, DJ Reader's name has been out there. I've even talked about DJ Reader, that if we get DJ Reader, I even call it a championship move. We're saying that if we get that one tech, it'll really help us to finally be able to stop the run. Well, Brian Broaddus is pushing back on this thing about the one tech, and in particular, Mazi Smith. Brian Broaddus is telling people that basically, Mazi Smith is not the only issue for the Dallas Cowboys as it applies to the run game. Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, please don't forget at the end to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. And if you haven't become a channel member already or subscriber, please do. We have a lot of great things coming in the future. Now let's talk facts. Now, I don't think Brian Broaddus is the only one that's been saying this. I've seen a couple of other guys, I can't remember who. I've seen a couple of other guys talking about that Mazi Smith didn't play. And the angle I've seen others taken is that Mazi isn't as bad as people say he is. But I also think we're all kind of thinking that maybe we don't know how big that step is. And that if he needs someone to share the load, that Jay Toya isn't that guy. And so a lot of us have been saying, so the Cowboys do need a one tech, that veteran presence, one tech. And I've been saying, but I haven't heard that talk come from the Dallas Cowboys. And that's my concern. I haven't heard that kind of talk come from the Cowboys. I haven't heard nothing from the Dallas Cowboys about a one tech. The only thing I've heard from the Dallas Cowboys is Mazi is looking better. That's all I've heard. And so it seems to me, listening to this in its entirety, I'll put it in the description. I've already covered it in the live today. It seems to me that somebody wants to send a message to the fan base, the content creators, whoever, that maybe the reason why the Cowboys' run game wasn't as good and why Mazi Smith has not taken the steps that maybe people wanted him to take. I mean, being a first rounder, you're being heavy touted. There's a lot of expectations. He was out of Michigan. I don't know what it was with the Cowboys and his Michigan connection up under Mike McCarthy, but it was serious. He just hasn't lived up to expectations. Some people say he was drafted way too high. I think Brian Broaddus and someone in this organization, though, is trying to say coaching is going to answer all this. Because Brian Broaddus puts together, and I got to give it to him, he puts together some very good facts, some very good research, some very good facts on Mazi Smith. Maybe he isn't the major problem of the Dallas Cowboys run game. Maybe it was all of them. Maybe it wasn't just all of them. Maybe the problem was the coaching. And I think that's exactly what Brian, in a weird way, I think that's what he's trying to point out. But let's listen to Brian Broaddus. I think he makes some excellent points. And I think he's really trying to take some heat off of Mazi Smith. Check this out.
Is it really just the defensive tackle's fault for the lack of run defense here? No. And I ask this because the more that I've dove into what some of the issues were, it's really not all on the defensive tackle spot, because if you look at where the Cowboys were one of the worst in the National Football League with where the ball was run against them. teams ran the ball on the edge against them almost 60% of the time.
I thought this was fascinating. And Brian is going to say this a little bit. He's going to say this later on in this interview. Or in this segment. Well, we have to understand something about Micah Parsons at edge rusher. Micah Parsons is really an undersized edge rusher. Doesn't mean he's not a freak athlete. Doesn't mean he's not great. Doesn't mean any of those things. But the truth is he's undersized. And his specialty is pass rushing. And what you do to an undersized pass rusher is that you run at him. Teams run at him. They do. They do run at him. It doesn't mean they don't run away from him, but they run at him too. They run at him. Micah Parsons talked about this, I think, last year after the New Orleans Saints game. They run at him. They put tight ends on his side. The tight ends chip him. They send running backs. They do all kinds of things to manipulate Micah Parsons. Why? He's an undersized defensive end. And so if teams ran 60% of the time on the edge on the Cowboys and were having success, you got to understand DeMarcus Lawrence was the other defensive end, and his specialty was the run. He was no longer a pass rusher. He was hurt all of last season. So I think Brian Broaddus is just basically saying something that teams were taking advantage of us on the edge, period, in the story. And then Nealon got injured. I mean, we were just tore up in all kinds of places, injury-wise on defense. But even when healthy, we were just not good at stopping the run on the edges. And some people say because the defensive tackle play is so bad, that's what just threw everything off. But I think Brian Broaddus, again, is making a great argument. I think he's saying something even larger or bigger than what we may be understanding. A one tech, as much as some have been saying, is going to fix this defense. Brian Broaddus is basically saying, no, this whole defense needs to be fixed. He's saying that defensive tackle is almost like a cop-out to say that if the team can't stop the run, but we always run to the defensive tackle position. And he's saying something. Well, if they're running on the Cowboys 60% of the time off the edges, how is that the defensive tackle's fault? It's not meaning that they're not bad too. It's not even saying that Mazi Smith isn't bad. But it is saying that Mazi Smith isn't the only one bad. And maybe Mazi is getting more blame than he deserves. Check him out.
Feasting on the outside.
The outside part of it, but we focus, and I say this because I think as fans, we immediately think defensive tackle problems.
Yep.
But you also, I'm in that mode right now where, okay, I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, yeah, it is. Ball's going to the edge. Ball's getting to the outside. It's not at the tackles. It's on the outside again. And I'm looking at this and I'm watching the tape of things of how they're playing run defense. And then I go in and I look at some metrics and I say 871 yards before contact. It was the fifth worst in the league.
You know what he's saying about the Cowboys? They're getting blown off the ball. And they're getting obliterated at the point of contact. They're getting obliterated off the offensive line. It's crazy. But I hear what he's saying. He's saying this isn't just Mazi. That's what he's saying. Some of our content creators have actually been making the same argument. Again, I mentioned them earlier. They've been saying that Mazi isn't as bad as people think. But Brian is taking it to a whole nother level. Brian is pointing out how bad the entire defense played. He's saying that the whole defensive unit didn't play well. Check these stats out. He's about to break down. It's crazy.
When it came to that, when it came to where they were picking up ball carriers.
Everybody's getting blown off the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I'm looking at a team also that only had 52 run stuffs when it came to. That was worst in the league.
Gosh.
Just give you an example. Cleveland Browns were the best team in the league when it came to playing the run. When it came to run stops, where it's at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage stuffs, no gain, that kind of thing. 110 of those.
Wow, so they more than doubled you up.
Yeah. That's the difference between, and then when you watch, and I challenge people, I challenge people, don't let defensive tackle be this low-hanging fruit.
I do think if you...
Now, let me say this. I think a lot of us have all been talking about defensive tackle play. Now, I said this past week, I'm not sure the Cowboys see this the way everyone else does, though. As much as people were talking about the Cowboys getting a one tech and, the talk about DJ Reader, I already said, I just don't think the Cowboys see this the way everyone else does. And I think the Cowboys are going to full well give Mazi Smith an opportunity in training camp to show that he's made that step. And if he shows that he's made that step, I don't think DJ Reader is the guy who you go get. I do think they might just go get somebody as just a little bit more depth. Maybe Aking Basadi isn't the guy you want in that third position, and maybe Joe Toya is not who you want in that second position, and maybe you do want somebody to rotate. But I'm just saying, I think the Cowboys are telling everybody, hey, Mazi isn't as bad as y'all think. Just like some of these other content creators are saying. And I think Broaddus is even taking it to the next level of saying, nah, man, I've been digging into the tape, and y'all need to understand that, no, it's not Mazi. The whole unit was bad. And if the whole unit was bad, then I also think it goes to another issue. I think the Cowboys are saying the issue was coaching. And they think they're going to be able to coach this team a lot better. And they're going to be able to fix some of those run problems. But let's continue to listen.
You had great defensive tackle play. Your guys would run more freely.
Yeah, some other people saying this too.
That's a myth at times.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's a myth. That's a myth.
Well, I don't want to let everybody off the hook. But
I'm not letting
Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas, Mukawamu, all guys were talking about playing slot or stepping up in safety. All horrible against the run.
Wow.
Yeah. Example.
Wow.
If you now, I'm going to use Pro Football Focus's run defensive grades for these players.
Yeah.
And you tell me if it's fair or not. Micah Parsons' run defensive grade is 65.5. That's 44th for his position out of 116. Okay.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. How about
that? Tells you that he's a liability in the run somewhat. I do think that's what they're saying. And I do think the Cowboys now, with the plethora of pass rushers they have, Donovan Ezeraku, Dante Fowler, and of course you got Micah Parsons, and we don't even know what these other guys are going to do. So, I mean, honestly, I think the Cowboys now can put themselves in a position to where maybe they could play Micah Parsons at linebacker on early downs and put him on the edge on passing downs. I don't know, but I think you got to do something if you really want your run game to be strong. I just think that he's a liability. Now, y'all are free to disagree with me. Y'all tell me in the comments. But I think he's a liability in the run game. He's an undersized edge rusher. You really don't want him out there on rundowns. His pursuit is great, so put him at linebacker. But the edge, boy, that's a tough place to live when people are running right at you and you're undersized.
Diggs, the corner?
Yep, we know about Trayvon Diggs.
43.9. He's 101st out of 105 playing run defense off the edge.
5%. That's no surprise at all.
So Digizua, 50.8.
Yeah.
77 out of 144.
That's why overall he's like the 25th best defensive tackle, even though he's top 5 as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I talked about that during last season. He's an up the field defensive. He's an up the field defensive tackle, and he's not dominant in the run either. He's not dominant in the run either. That's why everybody is screaming the one tech. But again, they're pointing out Osa isn't a great run stopper either. But this isn't trying to knock players. I mean, I just think what they're trying to say is, y'all stop knocking Mazi. I think that's what they're saying. Stop knocking Mazi like he's the only issue. They're saying that Mazi isn't the only issue. No, the whole defense is bad. That's all they're saying in the run. The whole defense is bad in the run.
Wilson, the safety, 56.6. He's 67th out of 96 safeties playing.
And he's the second best safety you have in run defense, even though it's horrible. And Malik Hooker's actually like the best run-stopping defensive back they have.
Yeah,
right on
77.8. He's 63 out of 93.
He's fast and tough. That's enough to get the job done better than anybody else.
I challenge folks out there to be better at this.
Who the folks you talking about?
Who
the folks you talking about? I'm just telling you, I just think he's talking to content creators in particular. Who is he talking about? Man, regular fans ain't doing this stuff. Some are, but most aren't. I think he's talking about content creators, which again, I'm giving some of our content creators credit.
Challenge you to, and I'm not saying you have to be a former scout or anything, but you can take NFL.com and you can go look at the best run defenses in the league. You can. You could sit down, you have a little time, and you really want to learn about this. Go watch who plays run defense and how they play it well. And then go back and watch what your Dallas Cowboys do. Mike Zimmer and them, I mean,
they go get Kenneth Murray Jr. to fix it.
Yards after contact or yards before contact. You talk about the players and I went through a sample size of all the positions. I didn't just focus on, Mazi Smith, sure, his defense, that to me is low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
we know that Mazi.
This is where he is right here. He's making a similar argument. I just think he's going to another level on it. And I think he's telling the content creators and some of the fans who may do some of this type of research. He's just saying something. Mazi Smith isn't the problem. I think that's what he's saying. Mazi Smith isn't the problem. No, the Cowboys actually have a problem, as in it was the whole defense. And so if it was the whole defense, I think that brings us to a conclusion as we close this video out.
We need to be better when we're evaluating this. We need to be better at looking at, it's just not a defensive tackle problem.
Yeah, who's the weak?
It's a problem when you really, really break it down that they have some fundamental problems. And listen.
Yeah, coaching. He's talking about coaching. And then he's talking about us, content creators, I believe. And I don't know if he's talking about anybody specifically, so let's not even start that. I just think he's been listening to the content creators, and he's been hearing that one tech talk, and he's been hearing the Mazi Smith talk. Because there's still a lot of people, no matter what even this video, they're still going to tell you that Mazi Smith isn't good. And they even say in this video still that even though Brian is talking about the rest of the team, the rest of the defense, no, they're not letting Mazi off the hook. I'm going to let you hear what this guy at the bottom says also as we close this out. But listen what they say about Matt Eberflus. I'm going to let you hear what this guy said at the bottom.
And Matt Eberflus, some of the stuff at the Bears, very comparable to what Dallas was going through. Mm-hmm. Very comparable. So, if you think that's, throw the magic.
But with the Colts and Bears, he did stop the run.
He did with the Colts. But if you go through and metric I'm going to look at some of his tape but if you go through and metric it, it's very similar. There's some very similar things.
Yeah, it's not incredible.
It's not one of these things like, oh wow, he's shutting everybody down.
No, he's not. It's more pressure.
I'm gonna make another video on this thing about Matt Eberflus. I'm gonna make another video on this.
In turnovers, big plays.
That's it.
Yeah. And I do think one of the reasons why we keep harping on the defensive tackle, and I'm with you. One, the average football fan, when they think about run defense, is not thinking about safeties and corners, even though they absolutely play a huge role. But the other thing too is the Cowboys have addressed some things. You just name dropped the Turner guy, as an edge defender who can stop the run. Yeah. You drafted Marshawn Nealon to be sort of that guy as well. You've done things. You've had some turnover at linebacker. What have you done at defensive tackle? You haven't addressed it. It's supposed to be low hanging fruit. We all know Mazi Smith sucks. Boy.
Those are some strong words. This man said Mazi sucks.
No, Osa, solid pass rusher, not much of a run defender. They haven't done anything about it. At least you could say, hey, they've tried at edge to get some run stoppers.
They got a 342-pound.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful about him. But it's you spent a 7th-round pick on him.
But it's at least it's not a retread. It's a guy that showed at UCLA that he could play the run.
Yeah, I'm
just saying that we focus just on the defensive tackle spot when it's really a bigger picture problem than it is just defensive tackle.
Yeah,
totally. You're 100% right. Yeah. We got 2 hours down, 3 to go.
Yeah, of course. Stu said Mazi sucks. Gosh, boy, you gotta be. Ooh, boy, that's tough. But again, I do think Brian is on to something to a degree. I just think that Brian Broaddus is basically telling Cowboys fans, Cowboys content creators. One tech is not going to fix this defense. I just think that's what he's saying. One tech is not going to fix this defense. Mazi isn't the only problem on this defense. I think he's sending that message too. I think he's saying that the fundamental problem was the whole defense, and that tells me it's coaching. I think it's coaching. I mean, your whole defense is that bad at tackling. Man, that's coaching. That's coaching. Your whole defense is that bad at run stopping. That's coaching. That is unequivocally coaching. We're going to see what happens this year. And the thing that they said about Matt Eberflus, that's got me a little worried right there. I heard some things in there that sounded like Dan Quinn. That's got me a little worried. Because if the Cowboys are not going to be able to stop the run, I just don't think we need to get back in that game of outscoring teams. Can we score 30 points a game with George Pickens? Yes. But I don't want that to be us saying we're going to score 30 points a game because the other team's going to score 28, or we got to score 35 because they're going to score 31. Again, I just hope that's not the mentality of this team. But y'all tell me what you think. This is a very interesting discussion by Brian Broaddus. And I do think it was brought on by the fact that he's basically saying people need to stop blaming or over-blaming Mazi. I think there's another discussion in there too. One tech is not going to just fix this team. I think that's in there too. And I think he's saying that this whole defense was bad at stopping the run. And it wasn't just Mazi, and it's not just defensive tackle. So that also tells me, man, the Cowboys, coaching. Yeah, they're going to need some serious coaching. And everyone's excited because we got some great coaches that are going to be helping us on our defense and helping us on our defensive line. So I'm very excited to see what this team looks like in training camp. Y'all tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. DC4L, God bless. Until next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.